Gotta shake it up. Gotta shake it up some more. There, done. Good morning. Welcome back to the Voodoo Garden. It's been 2 weeks. How you been? Well, I've been okay, and my little friends here have been okay. You know, after the last episode, the last program 2 weeks ago, I had a couple questions, and I wanted to address them with a show and tell, so to speak, because people, whenever they see, folks, whenever they tune in, oh, by the way, welcome back to the Voodoo Garden. My name is Ray. I am the host of this multicolored fun stuff I lovingly refer to the garden as the Garden of Voo. Folks have asked about this plant and this plant more than any other of my little green and purple and yellow friends here in the Voodoo Garden recently. They wanted to know how to grow them because they have issues growing them, and I thought, wow, I think I might be able to help you with that. You know, the answer to your questions is so much simpler than you might imagine. I think you're going to enjoy this. I think you're going to enjoy this a lot. One of the things, and I want to tell you, first of all, I want to mention thank you. Thank you to you, for helping me. Yeah, I know. This is because of you. This right here is a plant called, commonly known as the peace lily. I got it as a small plant. This guy or girl decided to grow while you were gone, and now we're holding hands. So don't mind us. We have a thing going over here. Well, anyway, this here is called a peace lily. It's a common indoor plant that people have seen for generations in houses, offices, restaurants, everywhere. It's actually very easy to take care of. But for me, I was having issues. Not that it was a bad thing. It's just that I remember I mentioned that some of my flowers were green. And when I'm growing a peace lily, I like the leaves dark, shiny green, and I love the contrast of the big white flowers. Well, I was having problems because some of my flowers are green, and I couldn't figure out why. I don't know everything. And a few of you actually mentioned that it has to do with the light levels. Yes, that if you turn the lights down or take it farther from the lights, you will get a better response from your flowers. And guess what? Here we are, and look at this. Take a look at this. Is that not stunning or what? I have had the best luck with this since I took it off of the stand away from the light and put it on the floor. Yes. So I'm going to give you a nice good shot of this. And one thing that I have discovered that I didn't know before, because I've grown this many times for many years. One thing I've always noticed is peace lilies, they don't have a fragrance to their flowers. At least for me, mine didn't. And since I've been taking care of this, I actually repotted it, put it into a bigger pot so that its roots can spread. And you can look down here. Take a look at that. All kinds of room now. Yes. What is that? Is that another root? Yes, that's another root. The more room you give them, the more room they're going to want. So eventually this is going to have to go into a bigger pot. But the leaves are beautiful, nice and shiny and healthy. The flowers are, of course, nice and shiny and healthy, yet they have a fragrance. Yes, I walked into the room one day and I realized this plant smells good. And it smelled so good, I leaned over to sniff it. And let me swing your head over here without hurting you. The plant was actually over here, where the purple plant was. And up there is a shelf. Well, I was standing next to the shelf and I leaned over to sniff the plant and my head hit that shelf. And there's a little sharp edge right there along the shelf. And I smacked my little head, almost knocked myself out because it leaned over so quick. I went in upstairs and I was bleeding on my forehead. So, yeah, I hurt myself. Yeah, so I had to put a Band-Aid on my head for a while. But this is doing wonderfully. I wanted to show you the flowers on this, and then I want to back you up, and I'm going to give you a few helpful tips on how you can grow your plant just like this. Now, as with most of our indoor plants that we're growing here in our gardens of Voo, this requires no special attention whatsoever. And it seems that whenever we give our plants too much attention, we tend to harm them. It's like we smother them with love. And that's one of the things I want to impress upon you, is that when you're growing a plant, Don't go crazy. Don't overthink it. Don't overdo it. The plants are our little friends here are very adept at doing their own thing and doing it in their own style. All we have to do as caretakers, and that's what we are, we're caretakers of these plants, is to give them the things that they need. And it's going to boil down to basically 3 things: food, water, light. And if you want to add a 4th thing, space. And that's it. That's it. So what I do with this, with a peace lily, is I water it well. Okay, and I have drip trays built into the bottoms of every one of my pots so that water doesn't spill out the bottom. But one thing I've always mentioned on my programs is be very careful. Learn how much water a pot will hold before it pours out the bottom. It's not a matter of just walking up and just dumping it in there and waiting for it to all pour out of the bottom. That's really careless. That's not caretaking, that's careless taking of your plant. You need to stop. And when your plant is dry, like this one, when it goes dry, what will happen is the bottom leaves will start to droop down just a little bit. Now what you can do is you can pick up your pot, feel it. Feel the weight of the pot. Learn about your plants, and it's not that hard. Feel the weight. Okay, that's empty. Now give it some water and kind of guesstimate how much it's going to take to moisten it all the way down. And if you're unsure, you can water until water comes out of the bottom. But watch for the water to come out of the bottom. It'll take a few minutes. It doesn't come out instantly. So if you water it, let it set for about 15 minutes after you're done, and then check the drip tray. If it has water in it, you know you gave it just enough water. Remember that, okay? And then lift it, feel it, and try to remember that. I know you have all different kinds of plants and you probably can't remember all that. Yes, you can. It's really not difficult. Whenever I water my plants, I walk up and I just give them a little lift. And for that size of a pot, I've gotten a feel for how much it weighs. It's not that hard. It's actually very, very easy. Once you get the hang of it, you're thinking, wow, that was a lot easier than I thought. And you're walking around, you're tilting your plants just a little bit. That's how I do it. And then I let the soil dry out again. You smell good. It almost smells like your house as soon as you take a shower. And the smell of clean, you know, like the shower smell with the soap and the shampoo, it kind of wafts through the house, and you know somebody in your house has taken a shower. I like that smell. It smells clean. It reminds me of my mom, because my mom was a very clean person. So our house always smelled clean. It was small. We were in a little tiny apartment. We didn't have a lot of money. But one thing I noticed is our house always smelled clean, and that's what this gives me. It actually has a fragrance. So that is the watering aspect. The food aspect, that's where I had my little shake and show. This is compost tea. It actually looks like tea. I use compost, and for a gallon of water like this, you would probably put in maybe a 1/4 cup of compost, put it in water, shake it up, let it set overnight, uncovered. Never put a cap on your compost tea. It needs to breathe. It needs oxygen. And if you're going to do a small amount, a gallon jug. Get yourself a gallon jug, like when you have milk or something like that. Rinse out the jug, wash it, and then use it for your compost tea. I use a 5-gallon bucket since I have so many plants. Well, you use that instead of plain water, and that will feed your soil, which will feed your plant continuously. That's all you ever have to use is that. Never have to fertilize, never have to worry, never have to think about it. That's all you have to do. Now, of course, one of the things you're going to be mentioning is I don't have compost. Not a problem. Go to the store and buy a bag of manure, composted manure, and that will work just fine. Okay, you can use that, put that in a jug, mix it up. It's perfectly fine to use for your plants. Or you can use any kind of mild organic fertilizer, but I would suggest using it at half whatever they recommend for strength, because you want to give it a mild feeding all the time. You don't want to give it a shot of fertilizer all at once. That can cause the leaf tips to turn brown. Have you ever seen that? The edges might turn brown. That usually means it's excessively fed. Now, that's all you need. Light. Now, I found out from you that I was giving it too much light. Yeah, you can give it a lot of light. It'll grow, it'll look beautiful, but you may get the green flowers. If you don't mind that, that's all well and good. I actually these lights are off for the filming, but normally I have these lights on. I just give it a little bit of light, and it's perfectly happy. That's how you take care of your peace lily. And every now and then, make sure you give it a big enough pot, because they are going to grow. Okay, so I would say the biggest pot you're ever going to have to give it is one of these big green ones that I always have here. That's a 16-inch pot. That's a floor model. Okay, and you can give it a smaller pot, but what it'll do is it'll get root bound. That won't harm it at all. And all you'll have to do is make sure that you feed it the compost tea, and even though it's root bound, it will survive and it will thrive for you. Okay, that takes care of that. Now, by the way, if you have any questions at all concerning what I'm going over, if I missed anything, post it in the comment section below. I will answer your questions and I will help you as much as possible, keeping your plants cruising right along, okay? Next one, next one, not you, you. This is the other one. This is called a purple passion plant, a Gynura, if you're going to be specific about it. This is a purple passion plant. It's a beauty. It's a showstopper no matter what plant you have in your house. You have this, people's eyes are going to go over to it. And the reason is, it's beautiful. It's furry, it's velvet. It looks like velvet. This giant, tangled, vining, beautiful mass of color. It is definitely a beautiful plant, no matter how you look at it. And we are going to take a real close look at it. The leaves are a dark green, a very dark, shiny green, as a matter of fact. But what gets people is the haze of purple. It's a fuzz on the plant, and it feels just as soft as it looks. You can actually pet the leaves. It's beautiful. This is a vine. It can grow in a bushy form if you want to prune it back and keep it growing straight up, but you'll have to keep pruning it. Otherwise, what will happen is these vines will gradually fall over and they will start vining out. Now, the thing about the vines on this is every now and then you'll have a few leaves like this that will turn brown, and you pluck them off and you'll have some bare vines, but you'll still have the growing tip. So that may not be the most attractive look, but the nice thing is it puts out so many, it covers up those vines, those bare vines. You'll always have new ones. You can take cuttings from these. It's so simple to root them. You just snip them off, pop them in soil or pop them in water. They will root, and you can have new plants. So you'll always have a plant when you have a purple passion plant. You can always take cuttings. This one started out from about a half a dozen or less plants in a pot, very small cuttings. And I grow this in a big pot. Not that they grow tall, but it's just that there's so many plants in here. There's 5 plants, and as they grow down, every now and then I snip them, and when you snip them, of course, they're going to branch out. Just like when we cut back the peppers and tomatoes, they're going to send out side shoots, which is called suckers. These are just side branches. This is only 5 plants, but of course each plant has about maybe a dozen vines coming out of it. So you're going to get a bushier plant the more you cut it. Now, if this gets too long, it gets too scraggly, you can go all nuclear on it and just take your scissors, and that's what I've done to this, is I've gone all the way around without exception and cut every single thing off, kind of like when my grandma cut my hair once. All the way around. You remember the bowl cut, us older folks. Yep, all the way around. It looked awful, and it comes right back. So you don't have to worry about that. Now, as far as care, same exact thing as the peace lily. I'm not going to bore you with all kinds of long drawn-out details. Exactly the same as the peace lily. The nice thing about this is it takes different kinds of light. I wouldn't recommend putting it in full sunlight, because if you put it in full sunlight, what it does is it grows really fast. And the faster it grows, the less chance it has to form the velvet on its leaves. So you'll get more greener leaves with less velvet. That's not really what you want. So if you put it in regular house light, out of direct sunlight, you're going to get the nice, full, lush look of this. And you don't have to, let me stand up, sorry about the shakiness. I want to stand up and show you something. You don't have to grow this big gargantuan thing. I had a bit of a series called Growing Small, and I'm going to lift you up over my head. Don't worry, I won't drop you. I'll take care of you. Right here. This is a couple cuttings of that plant that I just showed you. Same exact plant, all grouped together in a very small pot. And you can do that. You can have a nice, full, healthy plant in a smaller pot. Yeah, it's a great shelf plant. It makes a wonderful hanging plant. If you got a space to hang this in a corner, you can put it in a medium-sized pot, let it hang, and let this thing just trail down. The vines can get up to 6 to 8 feet long, and it is stunning. Whether it's a table model, shelf model, floor model, no matter what you got, this kind of plant is going to do well for you. Look at little Tiny R, my little painting of Tiny R up there. Yep, every time I walk into the room I see him. That was given to me by a friend, a very dear friend. But that's the purple passion plant. If you have any questions about that, let me know. This doesn't have any smell, but it looks good. This looks good, has smell. The variety of textures, colors, shapes, sizes. There's all different kinds of varieties of plants. This is a hydrangea. A lot of people that grow outdoor plants, you might recognize this. It's a pink and green and white hydrangea. I've always wanted one of these. I've mentioned that before. This is growing inside. It's going to be an indoor plant. It's flowered. I've cut it back. It's flowered again. I transplanted it. It's doing wonderful in here. There are so many, you can go to the garden centers right now in spring. There are a lot of plants that are outside. For those of you who would prefer to grow indoors, or you want to have a couple things indoors, there are a lot of shade-loving plants at the garden centers that you can get at the garden centers and grow them indoors. And a lot of people don't think about that. They think, oh, indoor plants, yeah, we got a vine here, we got that, we got this. You are not limited to growing inside that box. You can actually look at the outdoor plants and bring something indoors, like Impatiens. Impatiens are beautiful flowers, and there's this other one that vines down and it has these big purple flowers. I don't know what it's called, but Impatiens are one. You can bring those inside. They are shade-loving plants, which means if you have a medium to medium bright indoor light, you can grow Impatiens year-round inside. And right now you can get them for a song. They're almost giving them away at the garden centers. Get those, bring them inside, grow them in a pot. Why not? You can have flowering plants all year long. You are just because you are an indoor gardener does not mean that you have to really limit yourself, like people think that you have to limit yourself to just the standard boring plants. There are a variety of things. Look, Christmas in a pot. Yeah, this is the one that I talked about cutting back. This is the poinsettia. It's an odd little booger, it is, because I was going to grow this to be a green plant, but it decided, you know what? I don't want to be green, I want to be red. I want to be red all over the place. I cut this back to nothing but stems, and it came back all red. So I have me a little Christmas all year round here in the Voodoo Garden. I'm not upset with that. See, that's something that most people would throw away right after Christmas. I even had a little Christmas tree growing in here for a while. My little frozen tree, I just recently planted that outside. And I have a program coming up. Check out the Praxis 55712 channel. I have a program about the frozen tree. I did something really kind of odd, something I've always wanted to do, and it was really strange. It's really bizarre. Check over on that program. It's coming up. It's coming up. You're going to like that. But I have a tomato. This is my Praxis cherry. This was a little itty bitty cutting off of my cherry tomato plant. Actually, it'll be the last thing I show you, okay? I want to show you this because it's doing something really kind of fun. In the spirit of growing things inside that you don't normally see. Yeah, you do normally see tomatoes plants inside early spring. People are starting them for outside, but this isn't destined for outside. This one's going to live its life in the Voodoo Garden. I figure, what the heck? I got a few of them outside. I don't need another one outside. So this one was just an itty bitty cutting that I took off of the other plants for a backup. I didn't need the backup. So what do I have? I have a cherry tomato plant, the Praxis cherry. It's growing. It's flowering, and to pollinate your tomato flowers, all you have to do is just flick them a little bit, because they're enclosed flowers. They don't need to be pollinated by touching each individual flower. They're not like that. They have all the parts enclosed inside. This is one plant in a 14-inch pot, which isn't that big, and it's just standard potting mix. But I want to give you the scope of this, okay? So I'm going to lift you up over the plant. This is one plant that I pruned back, and it is a bushy, beautiful plant. Eventually, I might need to stake it, but you know what? Today's not that day. It's flowering, it's growing, and I'm going to go all the way down to ground level. See, this is going to be a floor model. It does have a nice sturdy base. It is balanced beautifully, and it's got roots coming out of the soil surface. I really should have put some compost in there. But you know what? It's doing fine without it because I'm using Compost Tea. And look, while people are still planting their plants outside, I'm going to be enjoying fresh cherry tomatoes here in the Voodoo Garden. Ah, it's a fun day here in the Garden of Voo. Yep, it is a good day in the Garden of Voo. It smells good, it looks good, everything's growing fine. I do have issues. I have issues just like you. I always have problems coming up, but I find a solution for them. And if I can't find a solution, I try again. I never give up. Don't ever give up on growing whatever you want to try to grow indoors, whether it be a common house plant, whether it be something a little bit more exotic, or it be something really not so common in your indoor gardening. If you have any questions concerning anything growing plants indoors, questions, suggestions, whatever it may be, always feel free. You're my friend. Always feel free to post it in the comment section below. I will always get back to you. I am one of those rare YouTube gardeners that will always be there for you. So whenever you have any kind of needs, that's what I'm here for, to help you do the very best you possibly can, to have the very healthiest and most fun, most healthiest plant, and most important, the most fun growing these plants, because that's what it's all about. It's about the fun of growing the plants. So with that being said, me and my colorful little menagerie, we're going to get back into our positions and clear this out so that I can make my escape from the room. And my little friend here is just going to have to spend her day by herself. Thanks for joining me. I really do appreciate it. Until next time, this is Raina's Little Friends. We're out of here.